Hey everyone, I hope all of you are doing well. In this video, I will show you how to extend the built-in user model in Django. Now, if you want to become a better Django developer to find a backend Python developer job, then I think that the playlist that I'm going to prepare now, which I will name Django for Everyone, is exactly for you. Because I will prepare a lot of Django tutorials that are rarely covered in most of the crash courses or in any Django beginners tutorial. And I think those videos will help you to prepare better portfolio projects and as well as just becoming a better Django developer. So this video will be the first one among all the videos that I will prepare in the future, which will cover how to extend the built-in user model. So if you don't want to miss any video in this Django for Everyone playlist, then definitely consider subscribing to my channel and let's get started. Now, throughout this series of Django videos, I'm going to use a basic project that I have came up with, and that will be inside the Django for Everyone repository. And you can see that we have here a base app directory, so that will be the directory that we are going to work on when I will be showing you some of the things that I will explain throughout the different tutorials. Now, I'm not sure if you have a Django project of your own, but if you have, then you might decide that you'd like to do your own reverse engineering throughout my explanations, but maybe you'd like to work with this basic project that I have made for you. So it will be as easy as using a git clone command, and then you can basically copy the repository URL by clicking here and press right there, and then you can just paste this in with right clicking on your CMD, and that will be it. And now you have cloned the repository and you can work with it. Now, if you don't have Git installed, then I highly recommend you to install it and work with Git command line utilities. But if you want to skip that, then you can also download it as a zip file and extract it wherever you want. Alright, so let me go inside Django for Everyone here, and as well as use a CD base app. And now I will clean the screen and I will show you what is going on here. So you can see that we have a basic project inside this base app directory. So let's just go ahead and open this directory with PyCharm. Alright, so I have opened my PyCharm and you can see that now I'm about to execute python manage.py run server, just to really show you for a few seconds how this application looks like right now. So let me bring in the browser, and you can see that when I go to localhost port 8000, then it automatically takes me to a basic homepage. Now, if I maximize this, then you can see that it has a nice navigation bar with some title and also a secondary title, and you can see that there's not too much complex things going on here. So that will be a perfect basic application that I want to show you throughout this Django series. Okay, so here is the project that I'm going to work on. Now, one of the first things that I want to do here would be to create a new Django application for our extended user model, so we will have an organized application of Django that we can work with. So I'm just going to go to our terminal here and use a create app command in order to create a new Django application. So let me clean the screen here and just say Django-admin start app, and then we will name this account. Now, the reason that I'm doing this, it is because we probably like to have an organized application with all the users, and we don't just want to pick a random location to add more fields to already existing user model. Now, before we get into programming this, then I want to explain main difference between extending the user model to creating your own user model with its own fields defined from scratch. So when we talk about extending, basically we grab the existing attributes like username, email, and the password, and then we just add more fields in order to extend the attributes of the already existing user model. Now, to be honest with you, the best practice when you start a project with Django would be to create your own user model before you even go ahead and fill in data in your database. But we might have situations where the user model for us could be enough, but we'd only like to add some more attributes like maybe birthday or gender or stuff like that. So that will be what I'm going to show in this video. I'm not going to cover how to create the user model from scratch, but we will just extend the existing user model in the most smooth way as we can. So let's dive into it. So I'm going to go inside the account application that we have created, and then I'm going to use the models.py file in order to create a new model that we could name it account. Now we have to somehow connect this model with the built-in user model. So let's see how we are going to do that. Alright, so the first step will be to create a new model that we could name it, for instance, account. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to use class account. And then I'm going to obviously import from models.model. And then I'm going to say in the very first field something like the following. So I'm going to use a user field, and that will be equal to models.one-to-one field. Now, one-to-one field is essentially the same as a foreign key that you might have heard of, and it is just a way to carry connection between one specific user object to one specific account object. So that is why we have to have this one-to-one relationship between an account object to a user object. So now we're gonna need to pass in here several arguments, and the first one is going to be the built-in user model. But we cannot do this directly like that because we need to import this model somehow. So it will be by from django.contrib.auth.modules import user like that, and that will be the built-in user model that currently your Django application uses. Alright, so now that we have done this, then we're gonna need to define some more important actions in here. Now, what will happen, for example, if we were to delete one of the user instances? So we need to somehow tell this account object that is associated with the user object to delete the account as well. So that is why in most of the cases that you use a one-to-one field, you need to also pass in what this will do on delete. And we want to pass in here models.cascade like that. So we could have the option to also delete the account object when we go ahead and delete the user object from some location like the admin panel. Alright, so now that we have designed this, then here is the exact location that we can decide for random fields that we would like to add to our user model. So I think that fields like birthday or gender could be great candidates for some additional fields in your users. So let's say that birthday is going to be equal to models.date time field, and let's instantiate that. And then we can go ahead and say models.char field, and then we can pass in here max length is equal to 6, as we are going to have two options for male and female. So let's see how this could be done actually. Let's see how we can have choices for some char fields. So I'm going to use here choices as an argument, and then this one needs to receive a list of tuples. So let's say that we will have two options, so that will be the proper way to pass that. Now in the tuple, we are going to include the following values in order to have them as choices. So the first one will be the way that the value should be represented in the dropdown when we try to basically create an account object from the admin panel. So we want to display their male, and we'd also like to decide as the second argument here what will be the value once this choice would be selected. So since we want to keep them kind of similar, then I will also use here male as well. So now in our second tuple, I will do the same for female, and let's just type this one more time, and that will be the way to use a char field that will have multiple choices. So that's actually a great way to define this, because it is a great idea to have the choices as a dropdown, even when you want to decide the gender from a dropdown, when you want to come up with a template of your own. Alright, so now that we have this, then let's go ahead and also override the _str method, so we will have a nicer way to see the object itself. So let's return here something like self.user.username. Now the reason that I can do this, although I see a warning, it is because each of our account objects are going to be associated with a user object as well. So that's why if we will have an associated user object, then we will always have the username attribute. So that's fine that we see a warning that this attribute might not exist. Alright, so now that we have this, then let's go to our terminal and submit our changes. Now our application is currently down, so before we take this up, then let's go and use Python manage.py make migrations. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I forgot to do something before I run this command, and that will be to include this application in our settings file. So let me do this quickly. So I'm going to go to our base app and settings. Now, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but there is actually an installed apps list as a configuration in your settings.py file that should be looking like the following. Now you also want to include here the new application that we have just created by only saying here something like the following. So it will be account.apps.account.config like that. And then we should also pass in here comma to not screw up the list. And now that we have this and we saved our changes, then the entire Django platform will recognize our account application, and then we are allowed to make migrations because it will recognize them. So now let's go back to our terminal and run it. And then you can see that we have a migration about create model account. So now that we have this, then we are allowed to say python manage.py migrate. And that will mean that now our SQLite 3 file will have a new table with a name of account, and that is perfect. Alright, so currently I'm working on my admin.py file inside the account application, and here you might have expected to only see something like admin.site.register, as you're probably aware of that in some basic applications that you want to register your model. Now, doing this for the account model is not a best practice, because then for every time that we create a user, then we're gonna also go to that account admin page and add an object right there. So in order to avoid this, we can actually use special methods to basically add the account fields as additional fields to the already existing user admin panel. So in order to show that, let me quickly take you to the admin panel where we can see the built-in users. So let me actually run here the server, and excuse me for that, this should be manage.py run server. And then, oh, excuse me, we should have delete this. So let me do that and open our terminal again. And now our application is running. So let me quickly bring here the website. Now you can see that we need to log into our admin panel to actually show you this. So let's create a quick super user here. Now a super user, if you know or not, will be the user that will have all the privileges to take different actions in your application. So in order to create that, then we need to clean the screen first and then say python manage.py create super user like that. And then let's actually use a random user here, because the changes that I will do here will also apply to you if you will use this application by the end of the tutorial from my GitHub repository. So let's use a generic user here like admin, and then let's just throw in a random email address, and then the password will be a capitalized A lowercase and then 654321. Now the reason that I'm telling you the password, because you might want to explore things by yourself by the end of the tutorial, so I want to make sure that you will have the access for the admin user in here. So now that I have created this password, then let's go ahead and see what will happen now if I was to access to the admin page. So I will use a run server now, and then I will go here and I will log in with my super user. So I think I mismatched the password, so it should be something like that. All right, so in the users, you can see that now we have one user. Now the thing that I wanted to show you is that you have the option to go to your user panel page in here and actually customize it a little bit to add the additional fields that you want to add from the account model. So that's exactly what we are going to do in this stage. We are going to edit this user panel of the Django, and we're gonna need to add our custom fields. So now let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go here And first, I'm going to delete this comment from here, and I'm gonna need to use some imports. So the first one will be from account dot modules import account, because we probably want to use our own module of account here, and we are also going to use the built-in user module. So I will say here Django contrib dot auth dot modules import user, and this should be enough for now. Alright, so in order to add something that is additional to already existing register module, like the user model that we have seen previously, we're gonna need to use specific classes to achieve such a task. Now, in order to do this, Django documentations recommend to create your own class that will inherit from some class that is called stacked inline. So in order to start with that, then I'm going to say something like the following. So it will be class account inline. And let me actually use inline like that. And this will inherit from admin dot stacked inline. And that was the class that I was talking about, that Django documentations recommends to inherit from in order to basically have your own specific fields for already registered user model. Alright, so now that we have this, then by convention we need to specify several arguments that are kind of required because we inherit from this existing class. Now this Django class here has some constants that it expects from us to override them, and one of them should be the model that we want to display in addition to the user model. So it's going to be equal to model, and you can see the auto completion because it comes from this parent class in here. So the model is going to be equal to account, and we're also going to pass in something like the following. So we are going to pass here can underscore delete is equal to false. Now the reason that I want to do this, because I want to avoid deleting accounts if the user is not deleted, because the account must be associated with the user and we should not delete accounts without deleting a user. So that's why I'm passing here something like the following. And the last thing that I will pass here will be also one more convention constant that looks like verbose name plural, and that is going to be equal to accounts. Now that is useful because you have control of how to display the objects when the admin displays them in plural way. So that's why I overrided this as well. And now that we have finished with this entire class, then we need to somehow re-register the existing user admin panel. So it will be by saying admin.site.unregister intentionally, and I will unregister the user module, and then I will duplicate this line with Ctrl D, and let's actually try this one more time. Alright. And then I will register this user admin panel back. But we need to pass in here some additional arguments in order to register our own configurations as well. So there's actually one more convention that we should follow according to Django's documentations. So that will be by including this account inline as an inline panel that should be added to the user admin panel. So doing this might require from us to create one more additional class that we should follow specific conventions. So according to Django documentations, we should use a new class that inherits from a class that is called user admin, and that is the class that is responsible to visualize everything that you have seen previously in the user admin panel. So it is going to look like class, and we will name our class in some way. So let's use just an underscore, and then we're gonna need to inherit from user admin. Now you might ask yourself how we are going to access this user admin. So that is going to use one more import, and it is going to look like from django.contrib.auth.admin, and we should import the user admin like that. And now that we have done this, then we're gonna need to override the inlines constant inside this user admin parent class. So it is going to look like in lines, and that will receive a tuple. And now inside this inlines, we are allowed to pass our account inline that we have customized. So now we will say account inline, And in order to recognize this whole expression as a tuple, we're gonna need to pass in here a comma, and we are good to go. Alright, so now that we have done this, then let's go ahead and give this class a name. So let's call it something like customized user admin, something like that. And then let's go ahead and include here in the register the customized user admin as well. So that will be responsible to take our account inline and add it as an additional fields in the admin panel. So in order to test this up, then I'm going to check first if our server is up and running, and let's actually see if it's okay by cleaning the screen and use a run server. So you can see that now our server is up and running, and if we scroll up in the Django administration and go to users, and let's actually see the admin user, and down here you can see that we have the option now to include birthday and gender. So that will be one way to extend the fields of the built-in user model. So now you can use a date to describe your birthday in here, and I know that I included here date time field and not date field, so it is probably a better idea to have it as a date field. So excuse me for not paying attention to that in the first place. And let's just do it very quickly, because in birthdays you probably don't look to specify the exact time. So if we open our project and go to modules, then let me change this to date field so it is more accurate. Alright, so now that we have changed this, then let's exit our application for a minute and use python manage.py make migrations, and as well as use python manage.py migrate. And now let's run our application and see if the changes are great. So if we open our admin panel again and refresh this page, then you can see that now we only got this date option in here. So let's use a random date like today and use female and save our changes. And you can see that now we have the changes being saved. Now you might also want to see the account information in a separated page, and you may not want to dive into the user specifically. So in order to do that, you can also register the account model separately. So I'm going to do that just to show you. So I'm going to open the PyCharm, and just down here I'm also going to use an admin.site.register method to basically show you that the account object is really created. So now let's go back to our admin panel and refresh this page, and you can see that we receive accounts, and you can see that we have this admin, and you can see that the information here is quite equivalent. Now in order to test this out with creating a new user, then let's see what will happen if we were to try to create a new user from this admin panel here. And pay attention that we want to create a user object and not an account object. The accounts are just additional fields to the user object. So I'm going to use add in here, and you can see that also here we have the account panel that we should fill. So let's use a secondary user like user2, and the password is going to be same like before, so A capitalized, A lowercase, and then 621. And I'm going to do the same for password confirmation. And now I can also specify a date here as birthday date. So let's pick a random date like 9th April 2020, and let's use female again and save our changes. So now you can see that everything pretty much working in here, and you can see that for each user object we have an account object that is associated. Now if we one day like to delete users, then we should expect to see the account object that is associated to being deleted as well. So let's test this up. So I'm going to now delete the user2 by scrolling down here and using delete. Now you can see that in summary we have some more objects that are going to be deleted, and you can see that it says to us that the account of user2 is also going to be deleted. So that's perfect. That's what modules.cascade is responsible for. So now that we have done this, then you can see that the user is deleted, and as well as the associated account. So that is a one way to extend your user model. Again, there are multiple ways to achieve such a task, but using one one-to-one field is actually a wonderful idea to add some more fields to the built-in user model. Okay, so this will close out the episode. If you have any specific ideas that you feel not enough comfortable with Django, then let me write this in the comment section so I can really make a tutorial on that specific topic. Now, just for your information, there are always room for improvement when you want to make your application robust enough. So if you want to always force your users to fill in birthday and gender as well in your customized template, then you can also use something that is called Django signals, which is a bit complex topic and can lead to a confusion when you work with them, because it is just like events that are listening to changes in your database and performing some additional changes in addition to what has been changed. So you can use also Django signal rule that will go ahead and say for every time that you create a user object, create an account object as well. Because if you are going to create a user object now, let's say from your customized template, then you don't have anything that is going to force to create an account object that is associated with it as well. So that is just a side point that I wanted to mention, and that will be it. So again, if you enjoyed in this video, please make sure to hit the like button and as well as subscribing to my channel, and I will see you very soon.